Welcome to the Extreme Underground, the show where I take a look at some of the most disturbing and controversial films in the world of cinema. Today, I'll be reviewing August Underground. Written, directed, and starring Fred Vogel, and co-starring Alan Peters. If you're unfamiliar with August Underground, it's pseudo-snuff. It's shot on video, it's meant to look like a real snuff tape. There's no intro, it's super gritty, it's all handheld, and the audio is only what's coming off of the handheld camcorder that the cameraman is using. This is one of those movies that I saw back in high school. It kind of fucked me up at the time. Revisiting it now, it's a little bit easier to see like some of the mistakes they made, so it's less convincing of being a snuff film, but it certainly did a great job trying to be this real take on a serial killer's journey to just go out and kill people without motive. August Underground does not have a primary storyline. It's simply about Peter Mountain, who is played by Fred Vogel, the director, and a cameraman who follows him around as he just kills random people. And he doesn't just kill them, he brutalizes them, he tortures them, and that's what's really disturbing about August Underground, and the reason why you'll see this film on your top 10 most disturbing movies of all time, because of how realistic it was. From the gore and the realistic grain and just the way that it's done, it makes it feel like it's real, because Peter's not just going around and killing people. Sometimes it'll cut to footage of him just dicking around, jumping on hay bales, and it just shows a bunch of stuff that like random people that are just going out, they got their first digital camera back in the day, and they're just filming whatever they can, and they just stitch it all together. There's no cohesion to it, it's just, here's a set piece, a girl's getting tortured in a basement. Alright, cut, move somewhere else. Alright, cut. There's no story flow or predictability to it, so that's kind of another aspect that makes this a little bit more real. Well, the camera work I'm sure is going to be jarring as it's all shaky cam, and a lot of people just like discredit films because of that, and I have too, but this was kind of purposeful. They use it in such a way that it helps hide some of the mistakes on the low indie budget that they had. I believe Fred Vogel was teaching makeup when he made this at Tom Savini's Academy, so the effects are solid, it feels disgusting and gritty, and you wouldn't want to be in any of the locations in this movie. You know, there's porn plastered to the walls, there's shit in buckets, there's people just covered in blood, naked, duct taped, with the VHS treatments and the grain and the motion. It makes everything seem a lot more natural, because if this was shot in 720p or 1080p, then you would see all of the mistakes, but this really covered up everything and made it a pretty convincing package. And I felt super bad for like the actors involved that were getting tortured. Very similar to when you watch the trailers for McCamey Manor, like that weird, crazy haunt. These people are suffering, even though they put themselves up to this. And I felt the same way for the actors involved. I can't imagine that every single thing is rehearsed. Like if it's somebody getting smacked or hit or like just something happening to them, I can't imagine that they'd feel completely comfortable at all times as they're being tortured. I feel like some of the pain and agony coming through on the people getting tortured's faces was completely natural, to be honest. You know, it's worth noting that this movie is not for everyone. Even if you're a hardcore horror fan, there are chances that you're not going to enjoy this movie because it doesn't have a story, it doesn't have a proper story arc, and scenes are very long and drawn out for the purpose of making you feel uncomfortable and mad and uneasy. So like, I understand why they did it, but it's certainly not going to be for everybody. Was it effective because of that? Yes. Did I like it? Not really. I can appreciate what was done here, and it certainly set the bar at the time for these fake snuff films because it was almost too real. The biggest issue that I have for sure is the acting. Unfortunately, I thought like our main two leads just weren't great. Yes, they were being like crazy and weird. I understand that they're like psycho, but just like the delivery of lines, some of them seemed super forced.
I'll give you $20 if you show me your tits.
And what do you say? 20 bucks?
And it just didn't come off as natural as the rest of the movie. So there was like an uneven balance when it came to the acting and the rest of the film. Another issue that I had that I think that some people would probably enjoy is the fact that the movie ends quite abruptly. The guys get a couple call girls, they go to torture them, and you think that there's gonna be like some decent payoff, but unfortunately there really isn't, and one of the girls just ends up running out and the camera shuts off and that's it. That's cool because it like kind of bookends the movie and just makes it like, oh look, there wasn't an intro, there wasn't really an outro, which just kind of starts and ends. But because they built up the call girls for so long, I thought there was gonna be some big punch or big gore effect or something cool to kind of like cap the movie off, but unfortunately that's not really what happens. This can be seen as a cool thing because it shows that like maybe this is real, but I didn't really enjoy it. At the end of the day, August Underground is probably one of the most realistic pseudo-snuff films that I've ever seen, to the point where Fred Vogel was actually like held trying to come to Toronto for a film festival at the border because they thought that he had real snuff. I think that's kind of like a stamp of approval, to be honest, for Fred Vogel. Like, I think that he's probably exhilarated from like people not knowing that it was fake, because that's exactly what he's trying to go for, right? Like, he's going for that realism, and I think he did nail it in most aspects. The camera work, the sound, the lack of a score, that's also pretty key, made it feel more real, and the people getting tortured seemed to be hating life. But on the flip side, I didn't think our acting from our main two characters, the cameraman and Peter, I didn't think they were very good, so it really took me out of the movie at times. And the ending seemed like a big tease or a letdown, so this is a very difficult movie to rate because it's probably the best in its very small niche, but it's hard to give it like a star rating that could be comparable to a blockbuster film. So I'm gonna give this 2 mosh pits out of 5. As always, thank you for watching. Like this video and comment below with your thoughts on the film if you've seen it. If you haven't and you do want to check it out, there are links in the description where you can find it. If this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe to the channel to stay updated with everything Bloodbath and beyond.